Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my series reading Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Oliver Twist as read by Lord Naren White. Not long gone 7, said the girl. How do you feel tonight, Bill? As weak as water, replied Mr. Sikes, with an imprecation on his eyes and limbs. Here, lend us a hand. Let me get off this thundering bed anyhow. Illness had not improved Mr. Sikes's temper, for as the girl raised him up and led him to a chair, he muttered various curses on her awkwardness and struck her. Whining, are you? Said Sikes. Come, don't stand snivelling there. If you can't do anything better than that, cut off altogether. Do you hear me? I hear you, replied the girl, turning her face aside and forcing a laugh. What fancy have you got in your head now? Oh, you've thought better of it, have you? Growled Sikes, marking the tear which trembled in her eye. All the better for you, you have. Why, you don't mean to say you'd be hard upon me tonight, Bill, said the girl, laying her hand upon his shoulder. No, cried Mr. Sikes. Why not? Such a number of nights, said the girl, with a touch of woman's tenderness, which communicated something like sweetness of tone even to her voice. Such a number of nights as I've been patient with you, nursing and caring for you, as if you had been a child. And this the first that I've seen you like yourself. You wouldn't have served me as you did just now, if you thought of that, would you? Come, say you wouldn't. Well then, rejoined Mr. Sikes, I wouldn't. Why, damn, now the girl's whining again. It's nothing, said the girl, throwing herself into a chair. Do you seem to mind me? It'll soon be over. What'll be over? Demanded Mr. Sikes in a savage voice. What foolery are you up to, now, again? Get up and bustle about, and don't come over me with your woman's nonsense. At any other time this remonstrance and the tone in which it was delivered would have had the desired effect, but the girl, being really weak and exhausted, dropped her head over the back of the chair and fainted, before Mr. Sikes could get out a few of the appropriate oaths with which, on similar occasions, he was accustomed to garnish his threats. Not knowing very well what to do in this uncommon emergency, for Miss Nancy's hysterics were usually of that violent kind which the patient fights and struggles out of without much assistance. Mr. Sikes tried a little blasphemy, and finding that mode of treatment wholly ineffectual, called for assistance. What's the matter here, my dear? Said Fagin, looking in. Lend a hand to the girl, can't you? Replied Sikes, impatiently. Don't stand chattering and grinning at me. With an exclamation of surprise, Fagin hastened to the girl's assistance, while Mr. John Dawkins, otherwise the Artful Dodger, who had followed his venerable friend into the room, hastily deposited on the floor a bundle with which he was laden, and, snatching a bottle from the grasp of Master Charles Bates, who came close at his heels, uncorked it in a twinkling with his teeth, and poured a portion of its contents down the patient's throat, previously taking a taste himself to prevent mistakes. Give her a whiff of fresh air with the bellows, Charlie, said Mr. Dawkins, and you slap her hands, Fagin, while Bill undoes the petticoats. These united restoratives administered with great energy, especially that department consigned to Mr. Bates, who appeared to consider his share in the proceedings a piece of unexampled pleasantry, were not long in producing the desired effect. The girl gradually recovered her senses, and, staggering to a chair on the bedside, hid her face upon the pillow, leaving Mr. Sikes to confront the newcomers in some astonishment at their unlooked-for appearance. Why, what evil wind has blowed you here? He asked Fagin. No evil wind at all, my dear, for evil winds blow nobody any good, and I've brought something good with me that you'll be glad to see. Dodger, my dear, open the bundle and give Bill the little trifles that we spent all our money on this morning. In compliance with Mr. Fagin's request, the Artful untied this bundle, which was of large size, formed an old tablecloth, and handed the articles it contained one by one to Charlie Bates, who placed them on the table, with various encomiums on their rarity and excellence. "Sich a rabbit pie, Bill!" exclaimed the young gentleman, disclosing to view a huge pasty. "Sich delicate creatures, with sich tender limbs, Bill, that the very bones melt in your mouth, and there's no occasion to pick 'em. Half a pound of 11 and 6 penny green, so precious, strong that if you mix it with billing water, it'll go nigh to blow the lid of the teapot off. A pound and a half of moist sugar that the blacks didn't work at all at, afore they got it up to sich a pitch of goodness. Oh no! 2 half-quartern brands, pounds of best fresh, piece of double Gloucester, and to wind up all, some of the richest sort you ever lushed." Uttering this last panegyric, Master Bates produced from one of his extensive pockets a full-sized wine bottle carefully corked, while Mr. Dawkins at the same instant poured out a wine-glass full of raw spirits from the bottle he carried, which the invalid tossed down his throat without a moment's hesitation. "Ah!" said Fagin, rubbing his hands with great satisfaction. "You'll do, Bill, you'll do now." "Do?" exclaimed Mr. Sikes. "I might have been done for 20 times over, afore you'd have done anything to help me. What do you mean by leaving a man in this state 3 weeks and more, you false-hearted vagabond?" "Only hear him, boys," said Fagin, shrugging his shoulders, "and us come to bring all these beautiful things." "The things is well enough in their way," observed Mr. Sikes, a little soothed as he glanced over the table. "But what have you got to say for yourself? Why should you leave me here, down in the mouth, health, blunt, and everything else, and take no more notice of me all this mortal time than if I was that 'ere dog? Drive him down, Charlie." "I never see such a jolly dog as that," cried Master Bates, doing as he was desired, smelling the grub like a old lady going to market. He'd make his fortune on the stage, that dog would, and revive the drama besides." "Hold your din," cried Sikes, as the dog retreated under the bed, still growling angrily. "What have you got to say for yourself, you withered old fence, eh?" "I was away from London a week and more, my dear, on a plant," replied the Jew. "And what about the other fortnight?" demanded Sikes. "What about the other fortnight that you've left me lying here, like a sick rat in his hole?" "I couldn't help it, Bill. I can't go into a long explanation before company, but I couldn't help it, upon my honor." "Upon your what?" growled Sikes, with excessive disgust. "Here, cut me off a piece of that pie, one of you boys, to take the taste of that out of my mouth, or it'll choke me dead." "Don't be out of temper, my dear," urged Fagin, submissively. "I have never forgot you, Bill, never once." "No, I'll pound it that you han't," replied Sikes with a bitter grin. "You've been scheming and plotting away, every hour that I have laid shivering and burning here, and Bill was to do this, and Bill was to do that, and Bill was to do it all, dirt cheap, as soon as he got well, and was quite poor enough for your work. If it hadn't been for the girl, I might have died." "There now, Bill," remonstrated Fagin, eagerly catching at the word. "If it hadn't been for the girl, who but poor old Fagin was the means of your having such a handy girl about you?" "He says true enough there," said Nancy, coming hastily forward. "Let him be, let him be." Nancy's appearance gave a new turn to the conversation, for the boys, receiving a sly wink from the wary old Jew, began to ply with her liquor, of which, however, she took very sparingly, while Fagin, assuming an unusual flow of spirits, gradually brought Mr. Sikes into a better temper by affecting to regard his threats as a little pleasant banter, and, moreover, by laughing very heartily at 1 or 2 rough jokes, which, after repeated applications to the spirit bottle, he condescended to make. "It's all very well," said Mr. Sikes, "but I must have some blunt from you tonight." "I haven't a piece of coin about me," replied the Jew. "Then you've got lots at home," retorted Sikes, "and I must have some from there." And we'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care and thanks again.